Hey everybody, Lawrence here with 30 Basin 30 coming at you with another one. Gotcha, another challenge piece. Clary's Creations started this challenge called Vertical Terrain. That was it when I first heard of it. I was like, yeah, I can do that. Sort of. I was thinking, it's like, I do have a need for a winding mountain path going uphill. So I was like, that'll do. And this is what I came up with. The only caveat is it has to be 12 inches tall. So yeah, I came up with a mountain path for Claris Creations Vertical Terrain Challenge. So before we get to it, I want to say a big thank you to my patrons, Dungeon Matron and Coro. You guys' help is always appreciated, and I can't thank you enough. So let's get to it. Okay, here I'm just mixing up some plaster. This is Merlin's Magic Dental Plaster, and I'm going to be filling up my Woodland Scenic Rock molds with this. It's a pretty simple process. If you don't have to use Merlin's Magic, I just use it because I have it. You can use plaster of Paris or whatever you have on hand. Like I said, I use the Merlin's Magic because it's stronger, and it's basically dental plaster, and it's a lot stronger than the plaster of Paris. And it's dark gray, so if I have dark gray, so if a paint ever chips, you won't see a bright white spot. But interestingly, if you add some black ink to your water when you're mixing up if you're using plaster of Paris, you can turn it gray, or at least a light shaded gray, so it won't be so bright white. And now I'm just popping the rocks out of the molds. It's pretty simple, especially if you use a mold release, but the mold release is completely necessary, not with these molds, though it does make cleanup a lot easier. Now I have a bunch of blanks already made, and I need to make a bunch of columns, so I'm taking advantage of the column jigs that I do already own. Basically, insert the blank into the jig and cut away on your Proxon, or whatever hot wire cutter you use. Column jigs just make working on making J or columns so much easier, especially when you have to make multiple of the same one over and over and over again, which I basically do for this project. But again, it's a simple matter of just running the blank through the jig and cutting away, and there you have it. Now I'm going to be using this really high-tech, expensive tool here, a number 2 pencil, to carve in some lines into these columns. I want to make each segment look like it's a stone of its own, so I'm basically carving lines into the column itself, just to make each section look separate and look like they were piled on top of each other, not carved out of one large piece. But again, I mean, this expensive sculpting tool. Another expensive tool, the end of a Sharpie brush marker, and I'm just using it to carve in some circles into the column, just for some visual interest. And now I grabbed the highly expensive sculpting tool of number 2 pencil, and I'm carving in a bunch of cracks into the column because I wanted to make it look aged and beat up, like it's been there for a while, and that it's barely holding together. And of course, now I also grabbed another expensive tool, a ball of aluminum foil. Use this. We all use this trick to give a rock texture surface to the foam. It does an excellent job, and it's cheap and it's easy. Are there other ways to do it? Yeah, but this is my go-to method for giving texture to stone, so it doesn't look so perfect and smooth when I don't want that. At least not for this particular project. Right now, I'm just trying to get the really rough substructure of the steps themselves done. I said this looks really ugly and really rough. I'm just gluing down chunks of foam together. Really, no real sculpting or making it look pretty. This is just the rough form. And obviously, you can see I marked off where it's going to go, so I could quickly put on the hot glue before it cools down and slide it into place up to the mark I made, and boom, there, it's on. Again, this is just a rough form. And I'm trying to get it done. But I'm also trying to make sure I get like a step form in a winding manner, because that's basically that way I can extend the path without actually having to make this thing really super long, which I didn't want to do. So a winding path is what I went with. And of course, now that the rough substructure is done, I'm going to try and start to get it a little more refined. Not by much, but I'm just adding more and more steps. And I'm going for like a half-inch difference in elevation for each step. That way I can put in plenty of steps and it'll look cool. But right now, I'm just trying to figure out exactly where each step is going to go. But again, we're also remembering, hey, this has got to be a winding path. Make sure I don't want to have all the steps go up one side. I need to have it wind back and forth. And also, while putting it in, I do a lot of, as you can see, I do check it against the piece, cut a little piece off, check it against the piece, cut it off. It's better to shake, and if you're close but you're not 100% sure, it's better to just cut off small pieces. And if you have to cut off more, that's fine, because if you cut off one big chunk and it's all gone, and you cut off too much, it makes it a little difficult. So test fit, cut, test fit, cut, test fit, cut. It'll save you headaches if you down the road. And of course, oh so wonderful hot glue gun here. Now, as you can see, miniatures to help me get an idea of how it looks. Now, after all those rocks that I had, I'm going to start gluing on the stones. I want them in various, on the vertical areas. It's just to make it look more of a mountain, rocky terrain, but also want to make sure, keep them in areas that won't interfere with the miniatures or gameplay. These are purely for aesthetic. If I want this to be used, so while I want it to look pretty, I got to make sure these stones stay in an area that won't actually interfere with the miniatures if you're going to be using this. But again, this is pretty simple. Just get your stone, see where it looks good, hot glue it in place. Easy peasy. And it looks pretty. See? Pretty. Now I'm going to be smoothing out the sharp corner edges, because I don't want like make it look like perfect steps and just want to kind of like a general smoother transition. And also, as you can see, I put on some foam core from the Dollar Tree on the top and on the sides. That was just basically to hide seams and to make a future step a lot easier, especially the top part. But again, it was just a quick fit it, cut it, glue it down. Easy peasy process. Now, as you hear, I went back to my massively expensive sculpting tool and I'm basically carving in some large cobblestone pattern into where all the steps are, the steps or pathway. It's a pretty easy process. Just basically run your pencil through the foam. Not hard. And honestly, I got the entire thing worked out in like an hour. Not even. Maybe half an hour, actually. Okay, now I'm going to be using one of my favorite tools or crafting materials, Sculpt a Mold. This is an easy product to use. It's 2 parts Sculpt mold to 1 part water, and then basically mix it up to a cottage cheese consistency. And I'm placing it in corners and areas that have seams, like you can see there. There's a seam between the green and the blue piece. I'm going for. I want dirt. I want this to look like a dirt texture. So basically, place it, kind of plat it down. Try not to make it too smooth, though I do sometimes. And I also want the steps to have a more smoother transition than just like straight up steps. This is an old pathway. Does it look man made? Yes, but it looks like it's a slightly old or in disrepair and hasn't been used for a very long time. So I definitely want dirt to be all over the place. Also, what you want to try and avoid making the sculpt, if I'm going for a dirt appearance, really rough and kind of nasty, so I'm trying to avoid making it too smooth. But I did make some areas too smooth, and so I'm using this homemade texture paste as a way to basically smooth out the transition from the sculpted mold to the foam because I was pretty rough with it. Also, this will give it a finer dirt like more dirt appearance in certain areas. And I'm also using it to fill up a few holes that I missed and maybe some cracks. Now, everybody's favorite step, Mod Podge. I'm putting this on basically on all the foam to give it a protective coating. And I added black paint to it, black Mod Podge. We all use it. A lot of us do. This basically black bombs it, gives it a darker appearance, and almost acts like a primer. But again, you'll appreciate if you give this a Mod Podge coating or something like this, it will protect it in the long run because foam is weak, and giving it this kind of coating will make it more durable. And of course, all the cobblestone areas, anywhere that's foam, I'm coating with this Mod Podge because I want this piece to last because it's going to see use on my game table, hopefully multiple times. Now that we got it all black bombed, I'm giving all the stone areas. The columns include a base coat of a dark gray. I like to use a dark blue gray. I just like the color. But again, anything that's going to be stone is going to get a good base coat at close to 100% as I can of this dark gray. As I like to use a triad system, dark, mid-tone, highlight. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy, and to me it looks good. Now that I got the base coat on for all the cobblestones, I want to pick out different ones and paint them a different color. Because in the end, I like the way it looks, because if I didn't paint different cobblestones a different color other than gray, to me it would just look like one big mass of gray. And I personally don't like that. So with my terrain, because like I say, if the only person you got to worry about is you because it's your terrain, well, this is my terrain, so I'm going to do it how I like it. The multicolors just will make it more visually interesting. And with these columns, I decided to paint those circle areas that I made a different color as well to kind of make it look like there's a reason for that. Or just because it looks cool or different. Pick your choice, whichever you want. Now here over all the stone areas, the columns included, I'm giving it an overbrush of a mid-tone gray. And as you can see, I have done multiple colors on the cobblestones. In the end, this will make it look more visually appealing, at least for me. This is a quick, simple, maybe like a 75 to 85% coverage, leaving all the deepest recesses alone. And this also tones down those other colors that I painted on to the cobblestones. As you can see, I'm even getting the stones that I put onto the sides. Now, I've already done the highlight dry brush on the stones, and I've put in the base coat down for the dirt areas. So now I'm just getting the mid-tone onto the dirt areas. Like I said, again, it's the triad thing I like to do. Dark, mid, light. Again, I'm going for like a 75, 85% coverage, and leaving the darkest, deepest recesses alone. No real special technique, just get paint on the brush and go over top of it. I mean, we don't want a full coverage paint. As you can see, I'm smearing some of it off on the plate there. And just brushing over. This is like a really, really heavy dry brush. But again, it's to me, I like doing it this way because it just gives it a visual interest that I think looks good. And of course, now I'm doing the highlight dry brush. I'm using a light brown or a tan. Actually, I think this color is called light mocha. Basically, do a quick, really light dry brush over all the dirt areas, the same as I did with the cobblestones that I didn't film. And this just brings up all the gnarly nastiness of the dirt, basically highlights the edges. And of course, now I'm going to cover all that pretty up with this dark, nasty, dark brown homemade wash. This is a quick and simple process. Everything is getting coated with this, including the columns. And it's just everything. Just coat everything because I wanted to give it a dark, dingy, dirty, nasty look. Like nobody's cleaned it in a while. But again, as you can see, it's toning down those different colors. I painted the cobblestones even more so. See, painted cobblestones like that is a trust in the process type of deal. Of course, now that the wash is dry, I'm going over and using the light dry brush to basically highlight all the edges and make it pop a little bit more. It just brings it back up. I'm using the light gray in all the stone areas, again, including the columns, and just making it pop. And again, this is just a really light dry brush. and hit on with the gray. I'm going to hit everything that's stone, including the stones that are on the walls, all the cobblestones, the columns, everything's stone. And of course, now that I've gotten the stones all done, I'm going back and getting all the dirt areas with the light mocha color that I used. Again, it's just to bring up all the edge highlighting. And for like the wall sides, I'm trying to work from the top down to make it look like the sunlight was hitting it and it's highlighting it with the edges. Sunlight, something, something, something. I don't know. It works and it creates shadows. But again, this is just a quick bring up the edge highlighting again from the wash. Here I'm using a homemade dark brown pigment powder, and I'm trying to get into the cracks and the crevices, especially of the stones, to basically give some extra shadows and some dusty appearances to the stones. Basically, like make it look kind of dirty and nasty. Like it's over time, dirt collects in cracks and crevices, and it also gives like a smooth, dusty appearance, which I actually like. And of course, once I'm done all that, I'm using some isopropyl alcohol in a mister to spray on just to lock all that in place so it doesn't rub off. Now that I've got all that done, it's time to start adding some flock. I'm using some watered down PVA, a 50-50 mix of water and PVA. And I'm sprinkling on some Woodland Scenics fine flock. I'm sprinkling, not pouring it on, because this is a mountain, not a lush field or meadow. I'm going with earth, burnt grass, and then yellow as a highlight. Here you see me adding some isopropyl alcohol to where all the areas that I flocked, because I want to break the surface tension for what I'm going to do next. I'm adding some watered down PVA to all the flocking. Adding the alcohol like I did breaks the surface tension and allows the watered down PVA to soak down in and just get the whole way through it instead of just sitting on top. Once you do this, it'll lock it in place and seal it and it won't move. Now I'm going to add some tall grass tufts that I made in a previous video. I'm basically using this like ice pick like tool, poking a hole in, making it a little bit bigger, grabbing a grass tuft, dipping its tip into some PVA, and placing it in the hole I made. It's a pretty simple process. You can add as few or as many of these tall grass tufts as you want, and that was the whole point. Now I'm adding small grass tufts. These I buy. I don't make these. These are readily commercially available all over the place. I'm using multiple colors, but it's just basically a process of sticking it wherever you think, yeah, that looks like a good spot. And that's basically what I did. I used multiple colors, though I'm only showing one, but stick them where you think there might be a tuft. I also used some tufts at the bases of most of the tall grass tufts, just to kind of blend it in and hide where the tuft actually goes into the terrain. So it looks a little more natural, I think. I don't know. I tend to put small grass tufts at the bottom and base of these tall ones. And here it is, all nice and pretty. Don't that look pretty? One thing I failed to film was I added some moss paste to the stone, climbing up the walls. You can see it in certain shots, but hey everybody, if you made it this far, it means you watched the end. And as always, I do appreciate it. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe. If you want to leave a comment, tell me what you thought. Click down below. Check the description. I have links to my Patreon, Discord, Amazon wishlist, all that happy hoo-ha. But I can't thank you guys enough for watching the video. I always appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it. Well, as always, guys, just remember, when you're making your terrain, the only person you do have to worry about is you, because it's your terrain.